Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another crypto market update. My name is Brendan from Crypto 101, and in today's episode, there are all sorts of catalysts, news, regulatory changes, and even adoption that's happening on a global scale. And of course, all of this is centered around and affecting the crypto market, which is why we have to break it down in today's market update. So all that we ask here is that if you like the content that we make, consider hitting that like button, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you really like the content, then check out some of those links in the description down below. So let's go ahead and get started here by talking about what's happening in the broader crypto market. Before we get into a couple of these topics like new companies that are adopting cryptocurrency, SAB 121 getting repealed, more companies adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, taking this MicroStrategy approach. We have adoption that's happening on the state and federal level, and so much more. But let's just kick things off with the sheer price of the crypto market, because there has been quite a bit of volatility. Now, you might have remembered that last week we saw Bitcoin shoot up to a new all-time high of just over $109,000 per token. Now, since then, we've seen a little bit of a retracement with Bitcoin coming back down to as low as 97K, but there was a huge effort to defend the 100K support level over here on Bitcoin, and we've seen the bulls actually buy up Bitcoin really aggressively from 97 to 98 to 99, and now it pushed all the way back up to nearly $104,000 as of today, which is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. So Bitcoin's green about 1% on the day. We have Solana green about 0.5% on the day. We have XRP, which is green nearly 4% on the day. And we have Ethereum, which is lagging behind just a little bit, but it's only read about 0.1%. So not really a huge move to the up or downside. It's nearly at break even. But the crypto market, certainly was defending a couple of these key support levels. And we have seen that when we start to see these prices dip, there's a lot of buyers that come in and they get really aggressive with their orders, which has been pushing the price back to the upside. So Bitcoin's still a little bit range bound. We see a lot of buyers at or below 100K over there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the catalyst that we are seeing on the fundamental side. So who are these 5 surprising companies that are now accepting cryptocurrency as payment? Well, the number one is a giant. In fact, it's one that we were just talking about, roughly a month and a half ago. And this was Microsoft. In the past, they have worked with Bitcoin before. In fact, just last month, we saw them voting on whether they wanted to adopt Bitcoin. And unfortunately, that vote came down and was shot down. But despite kind of the critics inside the company like Bill Gates, who has been at the helm of Microsoft for a while, or rather been founded it and was at the helm of it for a while, the company still remains pretty bullish on Bitcoin as an asset class. Now, we also have Starbucks, we have Home Depot, we have AT&T, and we even have Whole Foods. And regardless of whether you shop or you use or you even invest in these companies, most of us are going to be familiar with them. In fact, some of these are actually global in a sense where, it's not just for U.S. investors. This doesn't just affect the average person maybe in the U.S., but when you're talking about some of these more global companies, like especially Starbucks, which is all over the world, and Microsoft, which is an essential part of tech infrastructure, these are companies that affect just about every place on Earth and cover the majority of the world as well. So what this means is that these Fortune 500 tech companies in the US, out of the US, they are starting to adopt crypto. And you'll notice that inside of this article that we have, it's not just Bitcoin. It's actually other cryptos as well. And, if you want to read a little bit more into this, you can go to this article yourself, or you can pause as I have been scrolling through it on the screen here. But they also mentioned Ethereum and some other cryptos inside of here. And just the global crypto adoption continues by some of the biggest companies on the earth. Now, I did see that this came across my desk, and SAB 121 has been repealed. Now, this is a massive deal. A lot of people don't fully understand what SAB 121 is and why it's a big deal. But what this means and what this has done for companies in the past is that SAB 121 would require institutions who wanted to hold cryptocurrency to also hold 100% of cash equivalents in comparison to that, because crypto was deemed a liability instead of an asset. So let's put this in simple terms. If people wanted to hold $1 million worth of Bitcoin, they would then have to hold $1 million worth of cash. Now, that doesn't sound too fun, right? Because, maybe if you want to spend $1 million on something, well, the last thing you want to do is spend $2 million, because you have to have 100% of the cash investment alongside the crypto investment. So what this would do is this would change the way that crypto is kind of labeled, the way that it's worded as a liability, and it would not necessarily make people have to hold 100% of cash to offset the crypto assets that they're holding inside of their institution or inside of their portfolios. So this is a massive change that was recently repealed in a new executive order, and this is likely going to change the landscape for not only banking, but for anybody who wants to get involved in the crypto space from more of an institutional side or a business side. Now, alongside all of this, we were just looking at a Michael Saylor tweet, but Japan's MetaPlanet has been playing this Michael Saylor-like approach where they had just been accumulating Bitcoin and accumulating more and more and more of it. And they have adopted this MicroStrategy-like approach, and it has been paying off in dividends. We see that they plan to raise another $745 million via stock warrants because they just want to accumulate more Bitcoin. And this MicroStrategy approach has been kind of taken over. We've seen more and more of this. This is just one company that's pretty much just enacting this to the utmost extreme. But again, feeding into that initial idea of companies around the world. This isn't just a US thing. This isn't just, wherever you're from. Really all around the world, retail and institutions alike are saying, hey, how can we raise money? How can we get our hands on as much Bitcoin as possible right now? Because we think that this thing is going to appreciate in the years to come. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening in the first place. Now, beyond this, we've seen a huge push at the state and federal levels. In fact, I had something that I wanted to share with everyone because I had just a whole list of states that are looking to adopt crypto in some fashion. So the first one that I had over here, December of 2024, we saw Texas introduce a bill proposing a Bitcoin strategic reserve. In November of 2024, we saw Pennsylvania introduce something around a proposal to allocate 10% of all state funds to Bitcoin. On December 17th, 2024, we saw Ohio introduce the Bitcoin Reserve Act. In January 10th of 2025, we saw New Hampshire talk about a bill to invest in digital assets and metals. In January 10th, 2025, North Dakota added to that list. On January 2025, we saw Arizona also talk about very similar stuff. In January of 2025, we saw Wyoming and Massachusetts and Oklahoma get added to that list. And most recently, we even saw Utah on January 20th of 2025 talk about how they want to potentially allocate 10% of funds into digital assets like Bitcoin. So to kind of just structure that list and make it simple, we saw in the last 2 to 3 months or so, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Arizona, Wyoming, Massachusetts, I can't remember if we said Oklahoma, but also Utah, talk about adopting crypto in some way. Now, some of these want to just, adopt it in a smaller fashion. Other ones are talking about how they want to do 3% allocation, 10% allocation, and the numbers do vary. But a lot of these states are saying, hey, we need to adopt a crypto standard in some sort of fashion. And that goes hand in hand with this article on the screen here talking about Arizona passing the initial step towards the state being able to invest in crypto. So again, this kind of stuff is happening everywhere. I mean, it almost seems like we have too many things to talk about because there's just so much adoption that's happening on a global scale. And I think there's going to be a lot more states that we can add to this list a year from now. I think we're going to look back on this and say, man, there was only 10 when a year from now, it could be 20, 30, 40. I mean, it could be all the states, including the federal government that are going to be doing this thing a year from now. And, there's still certainly a lot of upside because when you look at retail is dwarfed by institutions. When you look at governments, those, are just blowing away the institutions and what they could potentially invest. So you just have a tremendous amount of money between retail and then the governmental side and the institutional side. And I think what we are really seeing here is that if that happens, if that gets approved, then there could be a huge continued move upwards. Now, all of this, everything that we talked about today, it could all mean nothing because one man has the power to manipulate the entire market, and that's Jim Cramer. Now, I'm obviously joking here. There's the popular inverse Cramer theory that says whatever he says, you should do the opposite of. And he came out and said, hey, you should own Bitcoin instead of MicroStrategy. So, I'm not sure how this works because typically Bitcoin and MicroStrategy are somewhat correlated. But I saw that MicroStrategy was red today and, Bitcoin was having a little bit of green. So we'll have to see if the true inverse Cramer standard holds up. But with him saying that you should own Bitcoin, it definitely has raised some eyebrows for potential investors. But that's going to go ahead and round us off in today's video, everyone. Again, pretty neutral on the day across the board, a little bit of green as kind of crypto and everything recovers from a lot of the tech craziness that we have seen coming off the DeepSeek AI kind of pullback that we saw. But nothing too crazy over here. Seems to be a little bit of an overreaction, especially as it pertains or even relates to the crypto market. But we're going to continue to put out a lot more content. We're going to make sure everyone stays informed. So if you liked the video, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you really liked it, check out some of those links in the description down below. Now, if you want to join a great crypto community, make sure you go over to those links. My good buddy Bryce Paul wrote a book called The Crypto Revolution. You can go down there, get access to that, or you can join us at Crypt Nation, where we have a great crypto community with thousands of other like-minded individuals where you can talk about your ideas, you can share them, and you can see what everyone else is interested in by interacting with all of them over there. And again, I'm one of the analysts inside of Crypt Nation. So we'd love to see you there as well. But that's going to round us off, everyone. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next video.